Okay, seems that we are live. Yes. Very pleasant, good evening to you all, to those who are now joining on this live, this GMS live Voice of Democracy. I implore on you to share the live as you now come in, share the live. Okay, electronics. Wonderful. Share the live as you now come in, share that live. Let everyone know that Dr. Matthews is in the house. And tonight, we're going to have a very pleasant and good conversation where we will discuss conversations of the awakening. That is the theme for tonight, conversations of the awakened. I would presume that you get out a pen and a piece of paper or a notepad or a book that you normally write in, and we can talk about a specific understanding, the word is abandonment. And to those who are now joining, share the live, share the live, share the live, and good evening to you. Oh boy, let me take this call. I, I am on here. Okay, yeah, no problem. After it. Yes. So uh, tonight's conversation is about abandonment. It's conversations of the awakened. So let me don't waste the time. Good evening to you from Guyana, to the Caribbean Isles, the West Indian Isles, the Pacific Isles, the British Virgin Isles, the US Virgin Isles, Mexico, US, Canada, UK, EU, Beijing, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, the Korean Peninsula, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, Pakistan, and to the country of the Hindustanis, which is known as India. Ah, to those who are joining us from the Australian continent, that island continent of Australia, and the isles that surrounds that Pacific area, which is the New Zealand Isles and the Tonga Isles. A very pleasant evening to you from Guyana, and to the African continent, from all the way a place like South Africa. A pleasant good evening to you from Guyana. The Gavin Matthews Show is saying good evening to you. And to Mr. Melina from from the country of South Africa, who is known as the civil rights activist for, not a lot of us will say African empowerment, but it's the Aboriginal empowerment. And good night to you from the continent of South America, from as far as Chile and Argentina, and you and Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname, French and Dutch Guyana, the Netherlands, Curacao, and to the Isles of Trinidad and Tobago, and to those from the Island Republic of Barbados, a very pleasant good evening to you. Yes, if you want, you can call Mr. Duke. I don't know if that's a question you're asking me, but Black Love to you all. Black Love is a design that is owned by me, patent by me, to be printed on designs. The price for that Black Love patent is $6,000. Not on everything, but most or less the t-shirts and the cups that you will now have the opportunity to have, and the caps. Uh, you can still call me. I think there are some people who would like to show their appreciation by receiving their stuff, and there's some people who hasn't gotten their stuff as yet. I must say my apologies, but I know you're supposed to already get them. It is just the part in which the transportation was supposed to be available, and receiving this stuff is where I'm having that difficulty. But nevertheless, a pleasant good evening to you. And welcome to tonight's show of the GMS Live Voice of Democracy and the GMS Live Radio Guyana. To those who are joining me via radio, and to those who are connected to the radio and the live stream, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you're receiving. So, tonight we are going to discuss the conspiracy around how, let me make sure I put it over correctly. Tonight we're going to discuss, sorry. We're going to okay, yes. We're going to discuss the conspiracy of abandonment. There is this broadcast over the social media and over the print media of reparations being provided for claims of slavery. There is this information that is being, I don't know if it's true. You have to apply to the Guyanese government for reparations of claims during the passage of slavery to your foreparents. Someone hinted this information to me and they sent it to me. I did I did an extensive research and a view of the whole situation. I'm going to discuss this conspiracy theory of it. Then I'm going to go into the original origins, if so be the case, that people wants to know. Now, for number one, the regime is de facto. The people that we call the government, they are de facto. That's one. Number two, to those who might have maybe an inclinative state of wanting to get into it, you got to get your facts right. And if you cannot know who was your foreparents, who came as slaves, who came off the docks of that ship, who came under what name and whose title did they went with, you don't have anything to collect. Believe you me, if that was issued by the de facto administration, it was an insult to the Aboriginal people because they know most Guyanese don't know their history or their story. They know that. They know we ain't got time for know about our foreparents gone back Which side we father come from, which tribe, whose name did he adopted while being enslaved. They know that. They know that carefully. So if that is true, ladies and gentlemen, Guyanese all, that's a conspiracy theory. That's one. Number two, even if so, that is the fact that they issued that, as I may call it, proclamation. It's to rob us because we can't lay claim to the lands that are supposed to be obviously ours. So if we have no story of our past, or we have no knowledge of our past, we can't claim to anything. And if that is a fact that they put that out there, it was encouraged to do that by the international community so they can lay claim to the land in which is rightfully ours, the Aboriginals. So I am saying to you, if so is the case, well, may God be with us all who have no knowledge of the fact, who have not even taken the time out to investigate who our foreparents were, which our mothers and fathers came from, which part of Africa they came from. We just don't know. So, in the de facto state, they want to lay claims to the land that is rightfully ours. And when I say that, I'm going to get to that. But I'm trying to let you know they're putting this heading above it that they call reparation is only to the people of slavery. They're not talking to or about the indigenous people who not only the Europeans came and met, even Columbus came and meet. So they're not talking about that. They're not talking about the Aboriginals who settled in the Americas because their names were Americites. So their lands were named after them. They're not talking about those Aboriginal people. Yes, to those who are looking, yes, we settled here far before slavery. Far, 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 far before. So we was living in these lands for hundreds of years. But you see, we don't take the time out to study and to think. Even to those who goes to these, well, you can't expect the university to teach you because if I enslave you for how many hundreds of years, you can't expect me to teach you the truth. So the university that represents me that you go to will never teach you the truth. You just be there to become a product or a product or a project a protege of my ideologies. That's all. You have your certification and that's good. Unless if you want to think outside of the box and use the resources that you have to gain such information, that's very, very good. But as of now, the de facto administration, if so be the case that they're telling you these things, I don't find it the easiest way enough for you to gain any benefits off of the reparations because to have your to have your identification of that family tree as an aboriginal now to the Guyanese who I'm talking to who has no clue about their story and them arriving here and how They happen to be here. It's a trailblazer. It's a hell of a hobble. Well, for me, I can tell you this. I am an American. I was born on these lands that are known as South America, North America, Central America. The entire place is America. It's just that, some of us tend to want to colonize it into different Americas, you know. And some of us tends to wonder to think that it's only by slavery we end up here. That's a complete lie. But if we tend to look at the story in which it's presented to us, you'll know that something is wrong with it. And you'll know that the evidence that is available now to us, that we were here far beyond or before that. You understand? We were here far beyond or before that. We know what was going on, right? But to some of us, it is hard. Some of us, it is hard because we're so taken up we're so taken up with this, what you call it, we're so taken up with the entertainment culture, that to follow up on our own story and what and how we become here, it's hard because we don't want to spend money into it. We don't want to educate our children. We want to let them be where they are because based upon who they say we are. And that's how we feel that we want to operate and act, which is bad. Which is bad. But abandonment. Let us use let us use what is taking place now in Guyana. We have the Aboriginals and we have the indentured laborers. Let us use that. The Aboriginals are which is people like me. We are the indigenous people to the land. Our story was far before the early 1600s and the early 1400s and the early 1300s. We were far before that, right? Now, if you have an intentions of taking a people's land from them, you have to create a scenario in which you can gain from them. So how would you do it? You'd bring a group or a race of people completely alien to the land, never saw it. When you put them on ships, they thought they were crossing a river. They didn't know that they were crossing an ocean. You brought them to a different land, which they felt it's in the backyard of the place that you call Hindustan. And you bring them here. You didn't bring them as slaves, you bring them as indentured laborers and you pay them. And some of them would have gained property, some of them would have gained wealth by being paid. To us who were not, well, not to me, but to those who looks like me that were enslaved, got nothing. So when they had the abolition of slavery, or emancipation as you want to call it, which to me emancipation is just a freedom from one particular sect of slavery to another, to be enslaved by another society of enslavers. And you pay them well. You give them a head start to us who doesn't have a head start. Then you install them into government and you want the lands from them because according to the Constitution of Cooperation, which is Guyana, Guyana and not Guiana, According to the Constitution of the Corporation of Guyana, I can use you, the head of state of that corporation, to gain the lands from the Guyana because the Aboriginal people have no clue in which they have authority of. So here you find the dictator, Mr. Jagdeo, running around scraping up lands because, according to the instructions now from the Central Housing and Planning Authority and the Lands and Surveys Commission, that the last person that can give authorization to persons who wants to claim lands is the de facto president and the de facto vice president. Those are the last two persons, which ain't look nothing like me. Suddenly, they're in charge of who should get what, how many pieces of property, and how large a property you should get. That's what they're in charge of right now. They're telling these organizations that they have the last say. And they're using the Constitution of Cooperation to take that away from us. And when I say cooperation, I mean Guyana. Guyana is a cooperative republic. It's a corporation. It's a business entity. To those who know what I'm saying, you'll understand. And those who doesn't know what I'm saying, no. So to those who knows what I'm saying, will overstand. But to those who doesn't know what I'm saying, will later understand because of, these facts are not being available to you. So if you notice right now, for every time you open up the papers, there's an issue with lands with the government of Guyana. There's an issue with the de facto government, the illegal and installed government. There becomes an issue because they tell themselves they're executive. And the only thing that they should be fully in charge of, those two criminals at the top, it is the land resources of Guyana. That's what they're completely in charge of. Everybody has to go directly to them. Every certificate has to be signed by them. So the Aboriginal people, y'all look like y'all and get in a little while. To those who are now joining, we're having a conversations of the Awaken. To those who are now joining, yes, share the live. The conversation is conversations of the Awaken because we got to be awakened. We got to open our eyes and realize the road that we're going down. There's nothing in store for us. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing in store for us. Let me show you why. Imagine they are a de facto illegal government and they're having the opportunity to share away lands like their head isn't good because they think they have the rights to. So you can imagine whatever state that they're going to put us in just now. Show you one, for instance. Before I came on air, my friend called me. He talked about providing 800 jobs in Region 6 where people would be able to work at least 3 days per week and earn a $40,000 a month salary. Imagine they're creating jobs for people in their constituency, but in the constituency that has the majority, especially Aboriginals, they're taking the jobs away from you. When you look at this double standard system, can you ask yourself, what kind of people do we think these people is or are? Because they are doing the same things that they were saying that they were not going to come and do. The same things Of course, they sent home 3,000 public servants. They're providing 800 jobs in Region 6. They sent home 3,000. They said Guyana Waterworks Incorporation had 700 extra employed staffs. Extra employed staffs. And the staffs that they're employing in those riverine areas in Region 6, some of them come under Waterworks Incorporated. But it's just that some of them will be managing outlets and stations that they don't have to come to work at least 3 times a day, 3 times a week, and that's it. And they get a $40,000 a month salary. Imagine they're giving away our money, taxpayers' money, but they're not giving it back to us. They're giving it to people, fine. You want to give it to them, no problem. But they haven't asked you the question yet. What about us who are in need, especially in this particular area? Oh, I now remember. You didn't vote for us, so you can't get it. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Y'all understand how I'm saying? And these people sit down to study how not to only manipulate you, but to oppress you. We keep going through this portion and progress of oppression that is really tearing us apart. And then we're not seeing it. We don't care. And this is a simple. I saw this thing. It as a matter of fact, this thing was in the on the social media. I don't know if it was in the newspaper. But you could imagine, even if it was in the print media, we were so focused on DeMarco who's coming the same week than the process of reparation. You, y'all get my point? Y'all get my point? And there's no such thing as native Indians to those who are looking. There's no such thing as native Indians. There are such things as native people. The aboriginals. They are native. Aboriginals. We were here long before slavery, to those who are looking. You didn't think those people who came from the mountains of Caucasus knows that? We were here years, hundreds of years before slavery, before the Caucasians even took over the place that you call Europe. And Europe is named after an aboriginal queen by the name of Europa. To those who doesn't know, these are the facts. How can you claim to the land of Europa that is named after an aboriginal queen? How can they lay claim to that? They call the place Europe. You get my point? To those who are looking, to those who want to be educated in this form, because these things are, how should I call it, are educational enough and good for us. We need to pay attention to these things because the simplest things that are printed in the news media that we miss are vital to us. We haven't met that big part yet that says, well, Exxon will take 2/3 of Guyanese territory. But I sure when they're about to print that, it's going to be very small. And when they decide to print it, it's something major is going to happen. Check my point. Some fancy building or ministry or restaurant gone burning a cause in news media to go wild. And while that's going wild in the news media, a nice little editorial factor would be printed to say the U.S. State Department, along with Exxon, will lay claim to two-thirds of Guyana's land mass. I'm 100% sure about that. I am 100% sure about that. You see, how should I put it? We need to constantly converse with each other. We need to start wakening up each other to the awakened stage. We not only teach each other, but teach our children. What we need to start doing is starting to change the way in which we live. Start to reject the culture of slavery because we become slaves. We are in a slave mentality. We are in a slavery, in a slave system, slave driven system that is governed by racism. And racism is slavery because it's not only take away our rights, is that we have no privilege as Aboriginal. Like everybody else got privilege except for us. We ever wonder why? We ever wonder why? Look, let me show you, for instance, Region 10 that is largely populated by Aboriginals. 98% of Region 10 are of Aboriginals. Why is the de facto administration concentrating so hard upon Region 10? Why are they afraid of them? Region 10 don't have the resources like how they have their own resources in Region 6 and 7 and 5. Region 10 don't have the resources, but two resources Region 10 has, and they don't want the people to know about it. It's human resource and the right to land. Yes, which is an inalienable right. They don't want people to know that inalienable right. They are born with it because we were the first. So we have the right to land. We have the right to life, liberty, and land, and property, which is land. That's our inalienable rights. We're the only person that can born with that anywhere around the world. But they don't want you to know about it. They just want you to know the machinery that they have that you must be afraid of, which is the system. And they can use your religious sectors to drive the fear. You never hear it. They say they would say, in order to learn about God, you must fear Him. You ever heard that word? Fear. Well, why should I fear God? That's the point. If I know Him, why should I fear Him? If you know Him and He's all around us, why should we fear Him? They use that same strategy. So when we look upon them, we see gods and we should fear them. For if we don't fear them, we experience their wrath, their military might and power, their policing. But if you stand up against such fear as an Aboriginal, they will intent to fear you because of the knowledge that you have, which is they call human resource. It's more powerful than money. Yes, human resource. You have more value and more worth more than money. They will pay you just for you to keep quiet and enslave the rest who have to keep working for the little piece of paper that they print and they sit back smiling. Can you imagine the consequences? Look at this. You work so hard for the currency that you now have that you call Guyana currency. The 5,000, the 1,000, the Barrett, which is the 2,000, and all of these thousand. You work so hard all month, and your only pay, it's a piece of paper with ink on it, with some figures. Nothing more else. You're not worth your actions, and your labor is not worth anything more else. For the things that doesn't even make sense, that has no worth at all. I would like to see the person who would tell me that they put some $1,000 bills in the pot with water and boil it, and rice came out with stew. I would love to see the person. I would love to see the person. And to the person who's asking that question, it says, yes, Gavin, but why are you people in Guyana allowing them to take away what belongs to the people there? Well, sweetheart, if I think yes, you have a female first name. The thing is that we are not awakeners yet. So the constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, which is an economic system, the constitution says the more ignorant you remain is the more I take from you. The more conscious you become is the more I have to repay you, because I have entered into a business arrangement with you to cooperatively occupy the land in which you call Guyana. Set out a constitution so I can gain from it, so you can be reimbursed for the agreement that we have made. That is constitutional again. So if you do not know, for a lot of people who are looking, where the United States sits on, that landmass is known as Morocco. Barack Obama said that. And from since then, I was following that particular information. Barack Obama, in his inauguration, says the first country to recognize the independence of the United States was the country of Morocco, because they had entered into a contractual agreement that the cooperation of United States shall occupy the landmass, not only occupy it, but develop it, make business out of it. So that particular, it's like if you as a company, you're going to invest, and I got build up certain structures and elements and all these things, and I give you permission, but there are percentages that you have to pay the people, the natives, which is the country of Morocco. You see, so to those who are looking, it's I know it's kind of hard. Hold on, wait. All right, I'm blocking this person. Tonight is an educative night to the PPP surrogates. Tonight is an educated night, Sherry Diraj, and we want to discuss. We want to have this fruitful discussion, because remember now, this is Guyana, and we have corporate entities that are looking, that we need to bring out from the slavery that they're in. So we have to teach them. I have to teach them. I have to bring this information to you so you can be able to stand on it and stand over it. Like we call it overstand, but it's to stand over, to take control. And not only take control of the information, but to able to represent the information, because the information represents you. So what is going on now that we don't know about? There are secret deals that are being signed to corporations that are now coming into Guyana, unknowing to a lot of us, because our lands are fertile. So if I take away the lands from the Aboriginals with the use of the indentured laborers, which we have control of, Because remember now, you were alien to the land of Guyana or to the land of America, because Guyana sits on the land of America. This is South America, and the other place is North America, but it's all America. So if I can arrange systems in place that I can oppress the Aboriginals and use the indentured laborers to take away the possessions of the Aboriginals, that is what I'm willing to do. So when we decide to stand up and we decide to say what we want to do and what we want with our lives and lands, the oppressors didn't like it. So they install who they have because they can control them, because they are not original heirs of the land. There's nothing that gives them possession, like how Jack Dio behaves like an heir fraud behaves like if their father left them a will to Guyana. Their father didn't left them no will. As a matter of fact, they came here with no will. We are the ones who came with a will because we were the first people. But of course, a lot of us don't want to hear we were the first people. A lot of us don't want to hear we have privileges. We're supposed to have privileges. We're supposed to live as the first people with rights and dominions. We don't want these things. A lot of us tell ourselves we don't. We want to leave it to people who we deem fit. So that is why they use the word abandonment. Oh, they abandon possession of it. They're using that now as an article. What is abandonment? You got to ask yourself, is it stupidity? How would a people abandon a land which they know they gain rights to? They can feed off of it, they can live off of it. You got to ask yourself, are we that crazy? Are you sure? Because I'm wondering when Christopher Columbus, or Columbus, I call him Columbus, when he came to the West Indies, as he normally calls it, the West Indies or Central America, he met people on those lands. He met natives on those lands. He met Aboriginal people. So how can he not only discover but that can lay claim to the land? You got to study and ask yourself the question why. It's hard to, huh? We can use Haiti as a simple example. Haiti was the first island, island of Hispaniola, as they call it. Then its its people were the first to claim independence ever. They got over 180 years of independence because of a revolution. They chased out the oppressors, they chased out the murderers, and they didn't like it. So instead of paying the Haitians reparations, they're now asking the Haitians to pay them reparations. And whilst they're paying them reparations, they're not giving them access to a lot of things. It's the same thing is happening. When Christopher Columbus went to the Isle of Hispaniola, he met over 12 million natives there. 12 million, which the Isle of Hispaniola is divided in half. One half is Haiti and the other one is Dominican Republic, which the capital is Santo Domingo. And he murdered and killed a lot of natives. Christopher Columbus' brother killed at least 6 million people. And we're counting it was one of the largest populated islands in Central America. what they call it, the Caribbean. If you understand that, if you understand what is going on now in our country, it is the passage to right to land. And those who are here are seeking to covet land. I'm talking about the foreigners who are coming here, are seeking to covet land because why? 83% of Guyana's landmass is unoccupied. Guyana population of 750,000 occupies at least 17% of Guyana's landmass. So we have a whole lot of land that is unoccupied, that is untouched, that is available for investment, economic investment. And they come here and they realize we got a whole lot of land that we can't claim ownership to. They realize the indigenous people here are so ignorant, which is the aboriginals. They realize that we are so ignorant and we don't have knowledge, we don't have paper to show evidence. So we're going to take the land away from them. I'm showing you the difference from Guyana and Suriname. You know, Suriname, the Chinese who are there are trying the same strategy, but you know why they can't take away the lands from the aboriginals of Suriname? They call them the Joker people because they have documentation. Goes back as far as the 1300s and 1200s, 1100 BC. That's how far they got documents going back. So it's hard for you to take it from them. But the thing is that it is so easy for us in Guyana because our constitution gives a way to an understanding that the bargaining was done. But we don't want to go back there. We got lawyers who don't even want to venture into their area because they ain't gonna make money for that. Because we are so focused on a piece of paper with the ink and some dollar signs on it that that's all that matters to us. When these people are thinking long term to make billions off of the land, our currency is the gold, the diamond, the semi-precious minerals, now the oil. That's our currency. And they're coming to take that from us without paying us a dime cent. Because the people who they're paying is the so-called politicians who doesn't have a clue of how important property is, not only to Guyana, but the people of this country, the aboriginals. You see, I had a long study about this word abandonment. And it is impossible for any native group to abandon the lands in which they live on. I would understand if they were chased off of the land, if they were being murdered, like how Christopher Columbus' brother murdered over 6 million Hispaniols from the Isle of Hispaniola, which is now Dominican Republic and Haiti. And they ran because they couldn't match with the kind of firepower that they had. I would understand that. But that's what you call forced abandonment because they didn't leave willingly. They were forced off of the land. And those who didn't leave were forced into slavery. The same thing here. The same thing all over you go. Have you ever wondered why, before slavery on this continent, why Brazil, that part of the continent which is named Brazil, and that area, why that area is named Brazil is because that whole area was figurated with Brazilian nuts. There's a nut that you call Brazilian nut. That's why that landmass was named Brazil. Why Brazil? The only country in the world has the largest population of Aboriginal from the continent of Kush or Kushites, which is Africa. Outside of Africa, Brazil is the only country that has the largest population of Africans. US second, because US have over 50 plus million. Brazil has roughly about 105 million. The largest. You ever study and wonder why? Because we lived right throughout the Americas. We were populators of these lands. We are the aboriginal, the original people. Our bloodline passed through here. You check it. Most of you are positive. That is the bloodline that you came from royalty. Original. You are the original people. They ain't got no name to give your blood because it is so rich. You check it. They can take all your organs and plant it in different people because it can work. They can give your blood to other people because it can work. But they can't give other people blood to you. They can't give somebody blood who's AB or A negative or B positive and give it to you who's O positive. It can't work. So, what I'm teaching here tonight, these are factors we need to take into consideration. We need to not only sit down and study it, we need to help each other to give each other the information that we need to understand why is it that people are so afraid of us. Why is it that people's desire, every economic entity in this world power force, world, you claim it, you name it, is always oppressive to the darker race of people or the aboriginal. I'm trying not tonight to use the word black because that's the name that they gave to us, that we so identify ourselves with. Have we ever wondered why? Why have you ever asked yourself this question? Why are people who enslaved my forefathers for how many years, hundreds of years, enslaved them, now responsible for teaching them, educating them, feeding them, giving them medication so they can survive? Do you trust them? Look at the education standard is based upon European myth. Look at the food that we eat. That diet is not for us. It was never for us. The diets that they give, especially for the sugar, the contents, is what thickens our blood even more and make us a lot of us trouble from cardiac problems and also hypertension and also diabetic, which you call diabetes. The diet that we gain from them contributes to these things. Have you ever known, asked the question why? Look at the pharmaceutical industry. It is never designed to heal us, it is always designed to assist our problems into a faster death. And then the mentality that they gave us, they say that we have to eat to satisfy the system. No, we don't. We have to eat to keep the system healthy. That means we have to eat healthy to stay alive. Let me show you a simple example. The Aboriginal people of Australia, yes, they call them Aboriginals, but they're the indigenous people. Look at them. And you know what? They have killed out those people. And who they can't kill, they couldn't even kill, so they had to accept them into society and they started bleaching them. They call it sterilizing them in order to make them a product of society. Till on to this day, they're still using it. So you understand what I mean? Not only that, it didn't happen only in Australia, but it happened around the world. We are so identified, we are so aligned, we are at the top of the chain of destruction for the entire world, and they don't like us because we are the original people. To ourselves, you check it. The minute you come off script of the educational system that is so designed to teach your children, they call you an enemy to the state. Or they make you people fees talk about, but to educate you, the things that are so different from the system. Mm-mm. They don't want you to know that. They want you to keep on being, they want you to keep being blind. But they're using now the people's progressive dysfunctional system because it is better for them to take the lands away from us when we study about what the people's progressive terrorist party is going to do to us, the Aboriginals. And one of them that the capitalist system or the democratic system is using, it's a system of oppression and racism. It's constant. It is constant. It's hard. It's hard to sit here and say these things because we need to be educated. We don't need to have a talk about who the Marco and what is he coming to do. Question: what educative process is the Marco coming to produce in Guyana when he comes? What are you going to learn from him? That's the question. What are we going to learn from him? Is he going to teach us, take us back to where we once was and help us to know that we can identify ourselves? No. But I'm guarantee you that thousands of people are going to turn up at that show at the National Stadium just to make some noise. Thousands of Aboriginals, plenty of them. And that same night, they're going to craft a law or a bill or a system to take more lands away from us, makes us more handicapped, so we can become an oppressed people even more. Like I had a conversation today and I told somebody, I said, poverty is just a state of mind. It's not a physical word, it's a state of mind. And how do you get to the poverty? How do you get to the state of mind of being impoverished? It's the education system that teaches you that of today's society. It tells you if you don't have money, you're poor, right? It's not that they say, yeah, you ain't got money, you're poor. You ain't got a house, you're poor. You ain't got a car, you're poor. Well, I'm poor. I ain't got a house. I ain't got a car. I ain't got money, but here, you can't make me poor. I'm rich with knowledge. I have wealth that they may want you to know. They don't want you to get the kind of wealth that I have. That's why I prefer to sit here and teach it, because it tells me the wealth of a man is not what he builds, gains, or buys, but the ability to change lives in a positive way. I'm telling you that. To the person who talk about Dr. Sebi, yes, you know why they killed Dr. Sebi? Because Dr. Sebi let the world know that HIV, which I call the human invented virus, is nothing but a state of mind. Some people say, what are you talking about? You come to me, I'm a doctor. Something in your blood that I can identify. It's not a virus, but it shows the strength of the people. So just because the strength of the people, and I don't want you to know what your blood system is made up of. I tell you, you got AIDS, you got HIV, you're HIV positive. Your mind is going to instruct your body to collapse. Sometimes you reach home, you die because your mind told your body to do that, and your body follows. That's why they say the most powerful tool on any human being is the brain. Know why they say so? Because you don't know the things that you can do when you use your brain. So they don't want Aboriginal people to use their brain. They want us to become and stay brainless. The original name of Guyana is Guyana, Guiana. Guyana. It's an Aboriginal word of land of many waters. But Guyana is founded in the Americas. The Americas is which is now known as North and South and Central America. So to those who were looking, as a matter of fact, before the entire continent was renamed by it was of its colonizers, they used the entire name as Guyana because the same Essequibo River flows through the entire landmass of Guyana, straight into Brazil. That's why they call it Grande Riviera, the Great River that flows into the Essequibo River. But you see, we wouldn't know these things unless we educate ourselves with these things. Unless we sit and teach our children where they came from, who were their foreparents, what authority they have. A lot of us doesn't even know that these names that these countries has, it's a corporate entity that they observed from their colonizers. Businesses were made because there were a lot of revolution. People were attacking these people who they call civilized people because they realized that the intended was to have slavery throughout all the world, enslaving the world's people, but they have mastered it now. They don't have to send a man over you with a whip. The whip is the dollar. Beat you with it. They devalue your dollar and give you dollar value. That's what they keep doing all the time. Rise and fall your economy because your people have to work hard for it. And your government has to borrow money because they don't have money. So the people in the society telling them, well, look, we can't barter with you, you gotta get US currency. That it could surpass the value of their dollar. So, but they lend you $1 billion, make things so hard for you that you can't pay back that $1 billion because you have to keep buying money. And in order for you to keep buying money, you have to print more money of your money. And every time you print more money of your money, you devalue your dollar. Y'all get my point? So your country become more indebted. The cooperation in which you have, which they gave to you, becomes more indebted to the mother company. So your cooperation and your subjects, which are Guyanese citizens, are indebted to the Commonwealth and the Crown because you haven't finished fulfilling paying your deeds. You're always indebted. You will always be indebted. Now the American shows up. The U.S. The United States shows up. That's an you can't print the US currency and give them. But China was smart. China buy at least $13 trillion off the so the US can't print in more money to give to other countries like China because China got trillions of US currency. Make them more scared because it's an economic it's an economic pattern that they picked up in order to put the US more into themselves. So they have the largest debt ceiling in the world. They owe themselves more than they owe countries. And they have to, in order for them to fulfill that payment, they have to circulate enough dollars, make people work enough hours so taxes can be paid. So we think happening together. We got all this money in debt. When we gonna finish paying it? Oh, by the way, not me, Guyanese citizens, because I see myself as Aboriginal, so I'm not indebted to you. I ain't paying no debt. You owe me, then I owe you because you're on my land. I have claims to this land. The reason why I got claims to this land because I am Aboriginal. We were here long before that. We have documentation to prove and to provide that. We can show you that our constitution that is so created now, the constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, which is a corporate entity, shows that the bargaining chip was laid so they can gain access to the Guyanas. Believe you me, information of tonight show the start of the education process is to show us as a people how strong are we. Once we stand up to claim what is rightfully ours, they cannot take that away from us. The first thing we got to stand up and claim is our inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and property. If we can't claim that, we can't lay claim to nothing more else. And how are we going to claim that? By educating ourselves and educating our children. If we keep oppressing you, taking away of your knowledge and freedom to life and liberty and property, it's to enslave you all the time. Because the minute you wake up, is to go and work for the money. That is your duty, and nothing more else. Can you imagine the pawpaw growing right outside your yard, the banana growing by your fence, the planting in your backyard, and then you still want money to go buy food? Are you serious? What kind of food you talking about? You telling me you ain't got nothing for cook it with? Man, oh man, oh man. Guyana, oh beautiful Guyana. Before you had kerosene oil, you had firewood. Before you had cooking gas, you had coals. All these things were developed through our communities to survival. Coconut oil, concentrated coconut oil that you can squeeze out and you can put it into the lamp system to burn. We were living with all these things before we even claimed to civilization. But civilization in itself, it's taking away from us. It's killing us out. It's not only a mass exodus, but it's a mass genocide. Look at where we are. I'm not saying that we must go back to those days. I'm saying that we could lay claim to what is rightfully ours. Educate ourselves. Use the same system, the same medium, the same system and the same medium to educate ourselves. We can do that. Instead of going on Facebook and abusing one another, saying who better than who, that's that was you know. Here was the amazing thing. Facebook is so designed that it knows the Aboriginal people. It knows that you like entertaining each other. So it's going to only lead you to sites and to people that are entertainers. They know which part of the world you are. It's why when you turn on your location, let me show you a simple instance. If you are on Facebook but Marvel is already on Facebook, you will find the things that Facebook would link you to are educational process of European standards. If you're living in Guyana, the things that Facebook would of the Caribbean and entertainers at large. This is the only thing you're gonna see. This is the only thing you're privileged to know. But to educate you, you have no privilege to know that. You understand what I mean? You gotta be using a different browser, or your location is bouncing off of some other hardware in some other European country. And the thing is that these things that they are giving to us is so destructive. The canned foods, the bottled foods, the microwave. You imagine you hotting up food in a microwave that gives off radioactive energy. And when you take that out and you eat it, you can understand what you're eating. Understand that? It's dangerous to health. The chemicals that are in these cans and bottles that are used to preserve food are what is making us sick these days. We end up with all kinds of cancerous diseases throughout our bodies. Imagine you eating things like magnesium. Sorry, not magnesium. Uh, sodium fluoride that are found in poison, and you eating these things that is in a can in a preservative process of chemicals. Look, I wish this program could have gone a little bit more longer. I like when I'm in this kind of process, this awakening process to help you to understand the world we're living in. But this is Dr. Matthews again, thanking you very much for being a part of this show. Black love to you all. Remember, Black love is it's a brand that is designed by me, owned by me, patented by me, and are willing to sell it on materials and objects. So for the process of this revolutionary process of the Gavin Matthews, the GMS Live Voice of Democracy, and the GMS Live Radio Guyana. But I want to say thank you very much to those who have spent their time throughout this hour and let's say 17 minutes to be a part of this process of awakening. I want to say to you again, stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask. This is Dr. Matthews saying good night, Cheerios for now.